Hey everyone, how are you? We are going to be discussing sunscreen today. We are going into Memorial Day weekend here in the United States, and you know what that means? That's the kickoff of our summer season. It's time for warm weather. It's time to get out and enjoy the sun. Our kids are off of school, so we're at the pools, and let's talk about sunscreen safety. So in today's episode, we're going to look at what is the job of the sunscreen. We're going to talk about SPF numbers and what they do for us. We're going to talk about how to apply sunscreen. And then we're going to talk about the ingredients we want to avoid in our sunscreen. So shall we get started? A lot of S's there, isn't there? All right. So sunscreen is designed to help protect our bodies against the UVB rays from the sun. All right, so when we are out in the sun, we want to make sure that we're having that protection. The sun is good for us. We want that vitamin D, but we want to protect our skin from those harmful damages. So if you are at a higher elevation, if you are closer to the equator, if you're out during midday, you really want to take even stronger precautions with your sunscreen and your sun protection. Now, there's other things that we can do just besides sunscreen, right? We can wear hats. We can make sure that we're covering our bodies up. But we all know we're going to be going swimming, right? Everybody's going to be out there, and thankfully, they're making a lot of the kids' bathing suits. I just bought some for our grandkids that have the long sleeve shirts, so they're, we're being able to cover the kids up, and they're still looking cute. And of course, we can put a t-shirt on too, right? But we can alternate too. Go out in the sun, come back and sit in the shade for a while, right? So those are good things that we can do as well. Now let's talk about the SPF rating, right? So the SPF rating, it tells us how much of those UVB rays you're going to get blocked and protection for your skin. So when we start at an SPF rating of 2, we are blocking 50% of the UVB rays. All right, so that's at an SPF of 2. Now when we go up to an SPF of 10, we are now blocking 90%. So from 2 to 10, we went from 50% to 90%. That's a 40% jump. So that's great. At SPF 10, we're already blocking 90% of the UVB rays. Now, as we go up from there, so say we go to a 15, an SPF of 15, it's only blocking 93%. An SPF of 30 is blocking 97%. All right, and an SPF of 50 is blocking 98%. Now 50 is blocking 98%, and a SPF 100 is blocking 99%. So from 50 to 100, you're getting 1% more coverage. When you go from 50 to 100, you're also getting more things added into the sunscreen in order to get it from an SPF 50 to an SPF 100. And you need to make that decision if it's worth it to you to go from 50 to 100. Now, the company that I choose to purchase products from that I trust doesn't have anything higher than a 50. We've got a 10 and we have a 50 because quite honestly, to get it higher than that, we have to put things in it that are not going to be so good for the body. And we'll go in and talk about that. So important to understand that the sunscreen companies would like us to believe that, we keep going higher and higher. I've even seen some things out there with an SPF of 300. Folks, an SPF that high has so many toxic things in it that we're causing more damage to our skin than that the sun would cause for us. That's my opinion. I didn't research that. That's just my opinion, okay? Now let's talk about how we should apply the sunscreen. So what I found is that the average adult, when you're going out in a bathing suit, full skin exposure, right? You should be putting on 1 ounce of sunscreen or a shot glass size. Now, I don't know. That gives a pretty good visual, right? I know when I put on sunscreen, I doubt highly that I'm getting a full shot glass of sunscreen applied on my body. So that, kind of keep that in the back of your mind when you're applying sunscreen. We want to make sure that we put it on 15 minutes before we get exposed to the sun. That's another, I don't ever do that. We put it on, out you go. A lot of times we put it on while we're out there. So get it on before, especially when we're using a mineral-based sunscreen. We want to do that too. All right. And no matter what that number is that's on your sunscreen, we want to make sure that we're applying every 80 minutes or sooner if we've been into the water or we've sweated a lot, or every 2 hours. Okay, so if we're water exposure, sweating a lot, 80 minutes. Otherwise, every 2 hours, we need to be reapplying that sunscreen. Again, those were no-nos for me. I put it on once and I was out all day long. So I learned some great information on how to apply the sunscreen. That was fantastic for me. And then the last thing I want to talk about is what ingredients do we want to avoid in our sunscreen. So if we're not buying a mineral-based sunscreen, we want to be watching for parabens and phthalates. We want to watch for petrochemicals in them. And we want to watch for synthetics, preservatives, fragrances, and dyes. We don't want those things in there. We know from other classes that I've taught that those are toxic to our body and can cause a toxic overload in our bodies, and that's a no-no. We don't want to see those. If you're buying a mineral-based sunscreen, we do not want to see UV chemical absorbers in there, and we do not want to see nanoparticles. Those are two big ones in our mineral-based sunscreens that we do not want to see in the products. A biggie that we don't want to see in any sunscreen whatsoever is oxybenzone. Oxybenzone is a known hormone disruptor. It causes all kinds of problems to our hormones, especially our young children. Lots of damage to our children's bodies. So we do not want anything with oxybenzone in it. And in fact, the Center for Disease Control did a study and they found traces of oxybenzone in 96% of the people that they tested here in the U.S. So that means we were using sunscreen, so that's a good thing, but we need to make sure that we're using the right kind of sunscreen without that causing issues for us. My recommendation for you to close out this video is number one, I don't recommend going any higher than an SPF 50, even if you're very fair skin, red hair, white complexion. I think 50 is going to be more than sufficient, but again, that's your choice. You get to decide that, right? I would always go with a mineral-based sunscreen. You're going to have less exposure to different toxic ingredients in it, and make sure they have no nanoparticles in it. Those would be my recommendations. Number two is make sure if you are sweating and in and out of the water, you're applying every hour and a half. And if you're just sitting out in the sun every 2 hours, we need to make sure that we're reapplying so that it's doing the job and we don't have that sun damage to our skin. You guys have a blessed day and thanks for tuning in. Enjoy your summer safely.